Hello folks, so in this video we are going to discuss process scheduling as part of operating system coursework. Um, so as you are already aware, process scheduling can be done in two ways, broadly classified as non-preemptive and preemptive techniques. So under non-preemptive, you have FCFS, SJF and priority, and preemptive techniques we have SRTF, priority and round robin. So when it comes to FCFS, we call it as first come first serve, FCFS, and SJF stands for shortest job first. And under preemptive you have SRTF, which is actually a preemptive version of SJF. So it is called shortest remaining time first. And then you have priority and round robin in preemptive as well. And round robin usually works with the help of uh, time quantum, so which we'll be discussing in a little while. Now let's first try to understand the non-preemptive techniques initially. In order to understand these techniques, we will try to take a sample exercise problem here, and accordingly we'll try to move forward, right? So here is a small numerical that we'll try to take into account. So let's say that you are given 5 processes here with their corresponding burst times. BT here is for burst time, and then arrival times are also given to you, and the priorities of each process are also given to you. So we are taking 5 processes for our understanding here. So each of these 5 processes have their burst times here 10, 7, 6, 1, 5, and also their arrival times are also mentioned here, as you are able to see, 0, 3, 4, 12, 18, and also the priorities 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Now coming to the priorities, we will take a smaller number as a higher priority here. I repeat again, a smaller number indicates higher priority. So in this case, suppose if we compare P1 and P2, P2 has 1, so P2 has a higher priority compared to P1. Now anyway, we'll be discussing that when we come to the priority technique as such. Now let's first start with the non-preemptive. Like I said, let's take FCFS. Now each of these techniques, for us to understand, we will take help of something called a Gantt chart. So Gantt chart is a small tool used for scheduling this process one after the other according to their arrival times or according to their priorities. We'll be seeing that in a little while now. So let's first start with, let me, yeah, use this marker here. Right, okay. So let's first start with FCFS. So we will be discussing FCFS here. All right. Now let's take the help of a Gantt chart here. Okay. Now Gantt chart usually starts at time 0. Okay. Now at time 0, if you are able to see here, P1 is the only process which is currently available for us to schedule. Just give me a minute. So let me copy this. All right. Right, okay. So P1 is the only process which is actually available at time 0. So P1 will obviously be scheduled. Now because this is a non-preemptive technique, FCFS comes under non-preemptive technique. Now non-preemptive is a case where when a process starts, it will continue to execute until it finishes off its burst time. Unlike the preemptive techniques where you are forcefully stopping or suspending a process temporarily and again restarting it or resuming it later. But unlike those preemptive, in non-preemptive, non-preemptive is all about you're voluntarily allowing a process to continue its execution until it finishes. So at time 0, P1 has started as per the table given to you. So P1 has a burst time of 10, as you are able to see here. Okay. So P1 will continue to execute till 10. Right now at time, we are currently at time 10. So at time 10, P2 and P3 both have arrived, as you are able to see. P4 and P5 have not yet arrived because it's well above the current time. So in the current time, in the meantime, P2 and P3 have arrived, but P2 has a better arrival time. So P2 will be scheduled first, right? And P2 has a burst time of 7. So starting from 10, it will continue to execute till 17 because of the burst time. Now after P2, obviously P3 will be scheduled because that was next in line. So P3 has a burst time of 6. So P3 will continue to execute from 17 plus 6, that is 23. Okay, then followed by, now current time is 23. So in the meantime, as you are able to see, P4 and P5 have also arrived because of 12 and 18 here. So, but P4 nevertheless is arrived first than P5. So P4 will be scheduled first here. And P4 has a burst time of 1. So it will continue till 24. And lastly, followed by the remaining process, P5 has burst time of 5. So this Gantt chart will stop at 29 here. Now, just for your benefit here, just for you to remember whether your Gantt chart is correct or not, just as a verification. So you can simply add up all the burst times here, right? So you would see that it sums up to 29 actually. And that will be the last point in your Gantt chart as well. So in case for some reason you're not able to, get that 29 or whatever the number is according to the total here, it is kind of intervention that okay, you have done something wrong. So maybe that's just a thing that you can remember. Okay, now that we have a Gantt chart here, what is the next thing that we are supposed to do? Obviously compute the wait time and turnaround time. Now how do you compute the wait time? So wait time can be computed using the simple formula start time minus the arrival time. Okay, so for each and every process here, P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5, we will now try to compute the wait times. So obviously from the Gantt chart, you are able to see that P1 has started at 0. Okay, so P1 started at 0. So start time minus the arrival time, which is 0. P1 arrived at 0, right? Okay, then followed by P2. So P2 started at 10. So 10 minus the arrival time, which is 3, equal to 7. Then followed by P3 started at 17. So 17 minus the corresponding arrival time is 4, 13. Followed by P4 started at 23. 23 minus the arrival time 12, equal to 11. Followed by P5 started at 24 minus the arrival time 18, which is equal to 6. Now we need to compute the average wait time, which is simply sum of all this divided by the total number of processes. So that comes up to 0 plus 7 plus 13 plus 11 plus 6. That is 37 divided by 5 process. So 5. So the average would be obviously 7 point. So 5 and 35 and 4. Yeah, 7.4 is your average wait time. Okay. Now let's try to calculate the average turnaround time. Now what is turnaround time? Turnaround time is simply the yeah, okay. Let me quickly change the brush here. Okay, yep, right. So turnaround time can be computed using another simple formula, completion time minus the arrival time. I'm sorry, touch screen here, so it's just okay. Yep, my mistake. Yep. So that's the formula for turnaround time. So for each of these process P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5, we will now compute the turnaround times using the formula completion time minus the arrival time. Okay, so P1 has completed at 10 now. Okay, so 10 minus its arrival time, which is equal to 10. Now similarly P2 has completed at 17. 17 minus its arrival time as per the table is 3. So equal to 14. Then followed by 23 for P3 minus its arrival time is 4 is equal to 19. Then followed by P4, completion time is 24. So 24 minus its arrival time is 12, which is 12. Followed by P5, completed at 29. So 29 minus arrival time 18, which is equal to 11. So now the average turnaround time is obviously sum of all these values divided by 5, total number of process. That would be, so 10 plus 14 plus 19 plus 12 plus 11 divided by 5. So that would be 24 plus 19, 43, 55. That is 66 divided by 5, which comes up to 13.2. Is that correct? Okay. So these are the average wait times and average turnaround times using FCFS technique. Okay. Right. Now let's get to another technique called SJF. So let me quickly copy this table again for your reference. Copy it. Right. Let's move to a new window without me changing. Okay. Yeah. So let us quickly start with SJF now. Okay. All right. So let's do SJF. Now SJF is again a non-preemptive shortest job first. So whichever has a lesser burst time here, that will be given the first opportunity to schedule. Right. So again, let's draw the Gantt chart here. So this is a Gantt chart using SJF. There are 5 processes. Gantt chart starts at time 0. So at time 0, right now there's only one process available. So irrespective of whether it's short or not, P1 will have to be scheduled. And since this is a non-preemptive version, so the process will be voluntarily allowed to continue its execution until it finishes off. So P1 has a burst time of 10. So it will complete at 10. Now in the meantime, okay, so current time is 10. And in the meantime, as you are able to see, P2 and P3 have arrived. P4 and P5 have not yet arrived because the current time is only 10, but they have an arrival time of 12 and 18, so they are scheduled for a later point of time. Now, nevertheless, we have P2 and P3 already arrived, but among P2 and P3, P3 has a lesser burst time in comparison, as you're able to see here. Okay, so P3 has burst time of 6, whereas P2 has 7. So P3 will be scheduled first. So P3 will be given the chance to schedule first because of the shortest job first that we are using here. That is the condition in shortest job first, right? So whichever has the shortest job, that will be scheduled first. Now, unlike the first time where we had at time 0, because P2, P3, P4, P5 have not yet arrived at time 0. So P1 was the only one. So we had to schedule P1. Now, once P1 started, because it's a non-preemptive, it continued till 10. Now, because the current time is 10, in the meantime, we are assuming that P2 and P3 have also arrived. So among P2 and P3, P3 has a better burst time, shorter burst time. So P3 has been given chance to execute. Now, because this is a non-preemptive, it will be allowed to continue its execution and complete. So P3 has a burst time of 6. So starting from 10 plus 6, which is 16. Right now, the current time is 16. And now you are able to see that in the queue, P2 hasn't yet been scheduled. Okay, because P3 was given a chance. So P3 was in the waiting, P2 was in the waiting queue. Now in the meantime, as you are able to see, the current time is 16. So current time is 16. So P4 is also arrived because of the arrival time 12. So while P3 was executing, right? So this has also arrived. Now among P2 and P4, now obviously P1 has completed, P3 has completed, but we are left with P2 and P4 in the wait queue right now. Among P2 and P4, P4 has a better burst time or a shorter burst time, shortest job first, right? So P4 will be given a chance to execute here. And that will continue for only 1 unit of time because of the burst time there. So it will stop at 17. Now mind you, P5 has not yet arrived because arrival time is 18. So P4 has completed. But system will not currently be idle because there is already one more process which is in the wait queue, P2. And that's the only process right now. So there's nothing to compare. So P2 will be given a chance to schedule. So P2 will run for 7 units of time from 17. That is still 24. And obviously P2 has completed. And P5 is the only one which is remaining. So P5 will be scheduled next for a burst time of 5. So 24 plus 5, that is still 29. Again, as you are able to see, the last point in your Gantt chart will be sum of all these values here, which is 29. You can check that. Okay. Now this is a Gantt chart for SJF. Now again, we will try to compute the wait time and turnaround time, right? So let's see the wait time and turnaround time. My mistake, sorry. So wait time, turnaround time, all right? So wait time, like I said, is start time minus the arrival time, and turnaround time is completion time minus the arrival time. That's the formula we'll be using. So for each of these process, P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5, let us try to compute the wait times. So wait time for P1 is obviously the start time. So start time minus the arrival time. So 0 minus 0, that is 0. Similarly, P2 started at 17 minus the arrival time. So that is 3. Comes up to 14. And P3 has started at 10 as per the Gantt chart. Right. So 10 minus its corresponding arrival time is 4 as per the table given to you. Right. So that comes up to 6. And then P4 has started at 16. That comes up to 16 minus the arrival time is 12, which is 4. Right. Then followed by P5 started at 24. So that comes up to 24 minus its arrival time, which is 6. Now we can compute the average wait time, which is sum of all these values divided by 5 process. So that would be 0 plus 14 plus 6 plus 4 plus 6 divided by 5. So that comes up to 20 plus 10, 30 by 5, which is equal to 6. Now, as you must have observed, which is very less when you go for FCFS actually. So FCFS, we had a wait time of average wait time of 7.4. Right? I hope you are able to understand this. So now we have 6. Average wait time is 6 using SJF, shortest job first. Now let us try to compute the average turnaround time as well. So average turnaround time is completion time. So P1 has completed at 10. So that would be 10 minus the arrival time. Then P2 has completed at 24. 24 minus its arrival time. Right. Then P3 completed at 16. 16 minus its arrival time is 4. So that comes up to 12. Then P4 completed at 17. So 17 minus 12, which is 5. And similarly, P5 completed at 29. So 29 minus its arrival time is 18, which is 11. Compute the average turnaround time, which is sum of all this divided by 5. So that comes up to 31, 43, 48, and 59. 59 divided by 5, which is approximately equal to 12. Okay, so you'd probably get 11 point something. I just put it as approximately equal to 12. Okay, again, you can compare that with your FCFS here, which is 13.2, and we got SJF as 12, which is better than your FCFS, right? That's pretty much about your SJF technique. Now let's move on to the next technique, priority technique in the non-preemptive version, right? Okay, yep. Okay, so now again, priority non-preemptive. Mind you, we are in priority non-preemptive version. Okay, yep. So the Gantt chart for priority non-preemptive is something like this. Okay, Gantt chart obviously starts at time 0, and from time 0, obviously at time 0, P1 is the only one which is currently available. So P1 will start off. There is no other process currently in the queue because of the arrival time. So P1 is the only one. So we have no option irrespective of what the priority is. P1 will be scheduled and it will continue till 10 because we are in a non-preemptive. So the process will be voluntarily allowed to complete its execution. Now the current arrival time is 10. So in the meantime, P2 and P3 have also arrived, right? 3 and 4. So while P1 was executing, these two have also arrived. But obviously, we are now working with the priority technique here. So we are more worried about the priority. As I've told at the beginning, I am assuming that a lesser number here indicates a higher priority. Okay, so in this case, P2 and P3 in comparison of the priority column, you are able to see that P2 has a lesser number in comparison to P3. So obviously P2 will be scheduled first, right? So P2 has a higher priority than your P3. So P2 is scheduled. P2 will continue till 7 units of time from 10 because of non-preemptive version here. So 10 plus 7, that comes up to 17. And 17 is the current time, right? So what we have completed so far is P1 and P2, right? Now the current time is 17. Now in the meantime, P3 and P4 are, because P4 has arrival time of 12, which is less than 17. So obviously P4 has also arrived into the queue. Now both are available in the queue, but among these two, again, we are more worried about the priority here. So P4 has a lesser number in comparison to P3. So P4 will be given a chance to execute here. And P4 will continue for its burst time because it's non-preemptive. So it voluntarily allowed for 1 unit of time. It will continue till 18. So P4 has also completed. Now in the queue right now, P3 was supposed to execute, but then again, arrival time 18, P5 is also there. Okay, so 18, at current time 18, you have P3 and P5 available. So obviously P5 will be given a chance because of a lesser number here, that is higher priority. P5 will be given a chance to execute for 5 units of time, that is till 23. And the remaining one is obviously P3. So P3 will also complete last, which is 23 plus the burst time, that is till 29. Okay, so that's your Gantt chart for priority non-preemptive version, right? Now, obviously, my mistake, sorry. Just give me a minute. Sorry. Yep. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the computation of wait time and turnaround time. So as I've already mentioned, wait time is start time minus the arrival time, and turnaround time is the completion time minus the arrival time. So let's start working on the wait times for P1, P2, P3, and P5. So P1 is start time is 0 minus the arrival time, so that is 0 minus 0, which is 0. P2 start time is 10 minus its arrival time is 3, so that is 7. P3 start time is 23, so 23 minus its arrival time is 4, which is 19. P4 start time is 17, so 17 minus its arrival time is 12, which is 5. And P5 started at 18, so 18 minus the arrival time is 18, which is 0. So the average wait time is obviously sum of all this divided by total number of process. That comes up to 26 plus 5, 31 divided by 5, which is 6.2. Right? Now, similarly, we'll compute turnaround time as well. So turnaround time is completion time minus the arrival time. So P1 completed at 10. So that would be 10 minus 0. P2 completed at 17. So 17 minus its arrival time is 3, which is 14. Then P4 completed at, my mistake, sorry, P3. P3 completed at 29. So 29 minus its arrival time is 4, which is 25. And then P4, yeah, P4 now completed at 18. So 18 minus the arrival time is 12, which is 6. And lastly, P5 completed at 23. So 23 minus its arrival time is 18, which is 5. So the average turnaround time is again sum of all this divided by 5 total number of process. So that comes up to 24, 30, 55, 60. 60 by 5, which is, as of now, it appears that this is better. Correct? Okay. Now let's go for the preemptive versions. All right. So priority, there is also a preemptive version. So let's take a look at that also. Now, mind you, in preemptive versions, we will try to focus on the interrupts also. Whenever there is an interrupt, the currently running process will be temporarily suspended and it will resume at a later point of time. Okay, so let's start with the Gantt chart first. All right, so at time 0, obviously the Gantt chart will start at time 0. So at time 0, currently P1 is the only process which is available. So there's no option but for P1 to schedule, right? Now P1, unlike your priority where it continued till 10, as you are able to see here, but P1 in this case will temporarily be halted at time 3 because of the interrupt here, because this is a preemptive version that we are working on. So we have to focus or pay attention to the interrupts as well. So P1 will temporarily stop at 3 and start comparing the priorities. Now, who gave the interrupt? Obviously, process P2 gave, it arrived at 3, so it gave an interrupt. And P1 was running with a priority 2, but P2 interrupted with a priority 1. So lesser number, higher priority. So that's the reason P2 will now be given a chance. So P1 is now temporarily suspended here. I hope you are able to make sense out of that. Okay, so I will also take into account the remaining time here. I will be taking a note of them. Okay, so P1 has completed 3, so that gives us the remaining time for P1 is right now 7. I'm just keeping track of that also. Now P2 has arrived at time 3 with a higher priority, so P2 will be given a chance here, right? Now P2 was supposed to execute for its burst time of 7, that is till 10, but then suddenly there is an interrupt at 4, that is P3 has also arrived now, right? Now obviously we need to compare the priority of that process also. P2 was executing with a priority 1. Now P3 is arrived at time 4 with a priority 2, which is giving us a notion that P2 has a higher priority because lesser number indicates higher priority. So obviously P2 will be temporarily stopped at 4 to compare which process has interrupted and what is its priority. Now because P2 has a better priority than P3 here, which has interrupted, so P2 will continue to execute here until when? Until either it finishes off or until either there is a next interrupt. So the next interrupt is at 12, but then P2 doesn't need to go till 12 because of its burst time is 7. P2 has already completed 1 here and the remaining time is 6. So it will obviously continue till 10 here and stop because it has no option because of the burst time. It completed its burst time, so it will come out of the system obviously. So P2 has completed now, but current time is 10. So I can't keep my system idle. I'll go back to the other process which I've already arrived. So P1 and P3 are right now in the wait queue because P1 was temporarily suspended, but P3 didn't continue because of a bad priority here. Now P1 and P3 have equal priority here, as you're able to see. 2 and 2 both have same names. So when they have same number or same priority, obviously we'll go back to the FCFS technique. So whichever came first, that will be given a chance. So P1 has arrived first in the wait queue, so obviously P1 will be pushed to execute. Now P1 already completed 3 units of time, the remaining time is 7. So it starts to execute here. It was supposed to continue till 17, but then there is an interrupt at 12 because P4 has arrived at 12. So obviously P1 will be temporarily halted again. Now what is the remaining time? So obviously out of the 7 remaining time here, 2 units have completed. So the remaining time for P1 is now still 5. Okay. Now who interrupted? P4 has arrived at 12. It has interrupted. So obviously I'll have to compare P1's priority with P4's priority. So P4 has a better priority because lesser number indicates higher priority. So P4 will be given a chance to execute. Until when? Until either it finishes off the burst time or the next interrupt. So the current time is 12. So the burst time is 1. So it can continue till 13. So P4 will complete its execution because there is no interrupt at 13. So I can go back to the wait queue. So in my wait queue again, P1 and P3 are still pending. P1 with a remaining time of 5 and P3 hasn't yet started. So it has a burst time 6, but both have equal priorities. But because P1 arrived first into the queue, so that will be given a chance first. I'm sorry. So P3 has arrived at time 4, right? So P3 would arrived at 4 and P1, it started and again went back into the waiting queue. So its arrival time in the wait queue is how much? 12. So the arrival time, the current arrival time. So the current arrival time is 12 into the wait queue, but P3 has arrived at 4. So P3 will be given a chance here. And P3 will start to execute. It was supposed to continue till 6 units of time, that is still 19. But then it will be halted at 18 because at time 18, P5 has arrived. Right? So P5 has a better priority. So P5 will be given a chance, obviously. And P3 has completed 5 units of its burst time. from 6. So P3 remaining time is 1. Okay. Now P5 will be scheduled, and after 18 there are no more arrivals, so there won't be anybody to interrupt. So obviously P5 can continue for its entire amount of time, that is 5 units of time from 18, that is till 23, right? So P5 also completed, and P3's new arrival time is 18. So at 18 it stopped temporarily and arrived into the wait queue, and P1 arrived into the wait queue earlier at 12, and P1 and P3 both have equal priorities, but P1 arrived first, so P1 will be scheduled. So P1 will continue for 5 units of time, its remaining time here, so that is till 28, and lastly followed by P3, it was having a remaining time of 1 as we have calculated here, so this is also done. 29. So again, as you are able to see, 29 is the last point, right? Now using this Gantt chart, we will again go for the computations of wait time and turnaround time. Now to make things easier for you, what we will do here is, because every process is stopping and starting here, as you are able to see, P1 started at 0 and stopped at 3, again restarted at 10, right? And again restarted at 23. So in this case, wait time will be effective wait time, not just the wait time. That is wait time here in the non-preemptive, we had start time minus the arrival time. Turnaround time was completion time minus the arrival time. But in this case, we'll have multiple start times. So because there is multiple start times, to make things easier, we will first try to compute the turnaround time. And wait time, we will simply calculate using this formula. So turnaround time minus the burst time. Wait time will simply be turnaround time minus the burst time, which is much simpler for us to calculate. So let's first start with turnaround time for P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. Okay, so P1 turnaround time, P1 completed at 28, so that would be 28 minus the arrival time, that is 28. Then followed by P2, P2 completed at 10, there's no more instance after that, so 10. So 10 minus its arrival time is 3, which is come to 7. Then followed by P3, P3 completed at 29, so 29 minus its arrival time is 4, which comes to 25. Then P4 completed at 13, so 13 minus its arrival time is 12, which is equal to 1. Then followed by P5, P5 completed at 23, so 23 minus 18, which is 5. So the average turnaround time will be sum of all these again divided by 5, total number of processes. So that would be 35 plus 25 is 60, 61, 66. 66 by 5, which is again 13.2. All right. Similarly, wait time. Wait time can simply be calculated like as per the first formula, start time minus arrival time. If you are doing that, it will be 0 minus 0 initially, plus you would again have to do this also, 10 minus 3. So P1 actually waited in between these times, so this should also be considered. Similarly, it again stopped at 12, so this duration should also be taken into account and restarted at this. So simply it would be 0 minus 0 initially, plus 10 minus 3, plus 23 minus 12. So that would be 11 plus 7, which is 18, plus 0 minus 0 is 0 anyway, so 18. So because this is like kind of confusing, so I thought you would be much easier, with going for this formula turnaround time minus burst time. So that would be 28 minus its burst time 10. So that would anyway give you the same value. Either way is okay. So even if you are doing this 23 minus 12 plus 10 minus 3 plus 0 minus 0, you would still get 18, or directly 28 minus burst time 10, that is equal to 18. So you would anyway get the same value. This is much easier for you. So that's the reason I told you that first calculate turnaround time and then go for wait time using this simple formula. Okay. Now P2. P2 is 7 minus the burst time is 7. That is 0. P3 is 25 minus the burst time is 6, which is equal to 19. P4 is 1 minus the burst time is 1, that is equal to 0. And P5 is 5 minus the burst time is again 5, which is equal to 0. So the average wait time would be sum of all this divided by 5, that is 37 divided by 5, which is 7 point, yeah, you would get 7.4 actually. Hope you got the point here. Okay, so that's for priority, right? Now let's move on to SRTF, right? So let me just quickly copy this part here and move on to a new window. Okay, so now we are working with SRTF, shortest remaining time first. Okay, so we are right now in SRTF, which is a preemptive version of your SJF. SJF stands for shortest job first, whereas SRTF stands for shortest remaining time first, which is quite similar to your shortest job first, but with interrupts in between. So let's see that. So let's draw the Gantt chart for SRTF first. So for SRTF, again, Gantt chart obviously starts at time 0, whether you like it or not. So at time 0, P1 is the only one which is available. So P1 will start initially. Okay. Now, P1 will temporarily be suspended or halted at time 3 because of a new process which is arrived at 3. Unlike your non-preemptive where it was voluntarily allowed for complete, but here we are following a preemptive version. So obviously P1 will be halted at 3. So the remaining time of P1 will be 7 here. And P2 has interrupted at time 3 with a burst time of 7. Now because both have same remaining time here, we are supposed to schedule shortest remaining time first, but both have same remaining time. So when there's a tie here, we'll go back to the basic method called first come first serve. So P1 arrived first, so P1 will be given a chance to continue. The next interrupt is at 4 by P3. So obviously P1 will again be temporarily suspended at 4. So the remaining time of P1 is now 6. Okay. And P3 again has a burst time of 6. So there's a tie again, right? So P1 will again be given a chance. And it will continue till the remaining time or whatever is the next interrupt. Next interrupt is at 12, but we don't need so much because remaining time is only 6. So it will continue till 10. So P1 has completed now, right? Now, because P4 and P5 are yet to arrive, I can't stay idle. So P2 and P3 will again be given a chance because they are in the wait queue right now. So I'll push them to the execution queue. But before pushing them, obviously I'll have to check which one has shortest remaining time. So P3 has shortest remaining time in comparison to P2 and P3. So obviously P3 will be scheduled first, and it will temporarily halt at time 12 because P4 has arrived. Obviously P3 has completed 2 units of time, so the remaining time is 4 here, right? Obviously in comparison to P4, 4 and 1, if you compare, P4 has a shortest remaining time, so P4 will be given a chance. It has only 1 unit of time, so it will continue till 13. And P5 hasn't yet arrived, so I'll go back to the queue. So P3 has completed, P4 has completed, so it doesn't have a remaining time here. And P1 has already completed, so it doesn't have any remaining time. So P2 and P3 are in the wait queue. So among P2 and P3, P4 has a shorter remaining time, 7 and 4, as you are able to see. So P3 will again be given a chance. So P3 will continue for 4 units of time because it has a remaining time of 4. And anyway, the next interrupt is at 18. So I can continue till 17. There won't be any problem. So it completed. And obviously there's only one process in the wait queue right now. So P2 will be given a chance, right? But it will temporarily stop at 18 because of P5 which has arrived. There's an interrupt. So the remaining time of P2 is now 6 and P5 has a remaining time of 5. So obviously P5 has a better remaining time, shortest remaining time. So P5 will be given a chance. Okay. Now after 18, there are no more interrupts. So it is as good as your non-preemptive again. So you are voluntarily allowing P5 to continue till 23. And obviously this has 0 and the remaining time of P2 is still 6. So it will continue till 29. Okay, now as per this, again compute your wait time and turnaround time for each of these processes. So like I said again, you can first compute your turnaround time and then come back to your wait time. Turnaround time is simply completion time minus the arrival time, right? So that would be let me use a different color here. Yeah, so P1 completed at 10, so 10 minus the arrival time is 0, which is 10, and then P2 completed at 29, so 29 minus the arrival time is 3, which is 26. P3 completed at 17, 17 minus the arrival time is 4, which is 13. Then lastly, there's one more. Okay, P4 has completed at 13, so 13 minus 12 arrival time, that is equal to 1. And lastly, P5 has completed at 23. 23 minus the arrival time is 18, that comes up to 5. So you have sum of all this, get your average turnaround time. So sum of all this divided by total number of process, that will be 36 plus 13, 49, 50, 55. So 55 by 5 number of process, that is 11. Okay. Now similarly, go for similar to how we have done in the priority preemptive version. Wait time can be computed using a simple formula, like I said, which is turnaround time minus the burst time. So you would get P1 as 10 minus the burst time is, right, then followed by 26, the burst turnaround time. So 26 minus the burst time for P2 is 7, 19. Then 13 minus the burst time of P3 is 6. followed by 1 minus the burst time is 1, that is 0. And lastly, followed by turnaround time of P5 is 5 minus the burst time of P5 is 5. So that is 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. So the average wait time will again be sum of all the wait times divided by the total number of processes. So that would be 26 by 5, which is equal to 5 point, yeah, so 2. Okay. All right then. Let's get to round robin next. Okay. So let me quickly copy this part here, the chart part. Okay, let's move on to round robin. Yep. All right. So let me quickly switch to the brush. Okay. So for round robin here, we obviously need some time quantum. So let us take a time quantum of 4 here. That's a choice that we are making here. So let's take 4. Usually you'd be given that value in the examination anyway. But in case it's not given, you can take a value which is slightly lesser than the average of all the burst times here. So that is 29 by 5 is the average, which is 5. Don't take the exact average. I would suggest you to take a slightly lesser value than the average value of all the burst times. That's a choice you would generally make if it is not given in your examination. In case it is given, go by the time quantum. Okay. Now, time quantum here is 4. So let's start with Gantt chart again. So obviously the Gantt chart will start at time 0. At time 0, P1 is the only one which is currently available. So P1 will be scheduled first. P1 has a burst time of 10, but it would not continue till 10 because it's a preemptive version that we are working on. And in this case, this criteria that we are using is time quantum. So P1, although it likes or not, it will have to stop at 4. So while executing, it starts with taking the time quantum of 4. Now, because it has 10 burst time, it doesn't mean that it will continue till 4, but only because of the time quantum, it stops at 4. Now, which is next in line? Current time is 4. Obviously, P2 and P3 both have arrived, but P3 is first in the order. So P2 will be, it's a round robin. So similar to your first come first serve, but with a preemptive version, I would say, with a time quantum. So P2 has burst time of 7, but time quantum is only 4. So it will continue till 8. Now, mind you, every time you have to keep track of the remaining time. So P1 completed 4, that means remaining time is 6. P2 completed 4 units of time, so that means remaining time is 3. Because we have to go to the next round again. They haven't yet completed successfully. Right, so P3 is next in order. So P3 has burst time of 6, but still it will continue only for time quantum of 4, that is till 12. So the remaining time is 2. Okay. Now the current time is 12. So P4 also has arrived. So P4 will also be given a chance now. So P4 will start its execution taking time quantum of 4, but although it is given 4, I require only 1 unit of time. P4 requires only 1 unit of time to complete, burst time 1. So because I want to utilize my CPU, I don't want to keep it idle. So obviously I will release my time quantum. I require only 1 unit of time here because of the burst time here. So I will release the remaining units so that some other process can take over. So the current time is 13 now. P5 hasn't yet arrived, but I can't keep my system idle. And P4 has completed. So I will go back to P1, P2, P3 again, right? Because they have arrived earlier than this one. So again, I will start to execute P1. So P1, the remaining time is 6, but time quantum is only 4. So I will continue only till 17 and remaining time is 2 now. Now P3 requires, sorry, P2 requires 3 units of time, but the time quantum is 4. Although time quantum is 4, I will utilize only 3 units of time because of the remaining time what I have. So I will release the time quantum. So P2 has completed. P3 remaining time is 2. So time quantum is 4, which is okay with me because I require only 2. So I will continue only till 22 and release the time quantum. And P4 doesn't need anything. And next in line is P5. So P5, because the current time is 22, that means in the meantime, P5 has also arrived. So P5, it requires 5 units of time, but the time quantum is only 4. So P5 will actually be stopped at 26 and the remaining time is 1. So 1 round is complete. Totally 2 rounds have completed so far. So I'll go back to the next round again. So in the next round, as you are able to see, P2, P3, P4 have all completed. Right? What is remaining is P1 and P5. And P1 and P5 require 2 and 1 each. Time quantum is 4, which is well within the limit. So P1 will continue till 28. So there's no more left. And P5 is only 1 unit. So it will continue till 29. So that's the Gantt chart for your round robin scheduling technique. Okay. Now let's go for the computations of your wait times and turnaround times. So again, as I've mentioned earlier, compute the turnaround time first using this formula. That would be easier for you to compute wait time. So turnaround time for P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, all the process you can compute using completion time minus the arrival time. So P1 completed at 28, so that would be 28 minus the arrival time is 0, which is 28. P2 completed at 20. 20 minus its arrival time is 3, which is 17, and then followed by P3. P3 completed at 22, so 22 minus its arrival time is 4, which is 18, and P4 completed at 13. So 13 minus its arrival time is 12, which is 1, and then P5 completed at 29 minus the arrival time is 18. That would be 11. So the average turnaround time, I'm sorry, the average turnaround time is sum of all this. So that would be 45 plus 18, 63, 64, and then 75 by 5, which is yeah, you can do that. And because battery is running out, so I'm not doing that. So wait time again is turnaround time minus the burst time. So that would be 28 minus 10 is equal to 18, and then 17 minus the burst time, and then 18 minus the third burst time, P3 is 6, so that is 12, then followed by 1 minus 1 is 0, and then 11 minus 5, which is equal to 6. Again, sum of all